Okay, I think we might be here. Welcome to Patchwork. Welcome to Patchwork Worship, Sunday afternoon. My name is Jean, and I'm hoping that there will be many people here. I will see your names here in a few minutes. As we gather, those of you who are with us live on Facebook, please sign in. Put your name down there in the comments section so that I and other folks can see that you're here. And while you're at it, you can begin to add gifts and prayers that we'll share later in the service. If this is the first time that you've worshiped with us on Facebook, you might want to know that at the end of the service we will have Holy Communion, Eucharist, Last Supper. And so if you would like to join us and be part of that, you can get where you are, a piece of bread or a cracker, some wine, some juice. Gather those, have them with you, and we'll join together with those in about half an hour. While people continue to gather, I might lift up for us all to remember patchwork events ongoing and upcoming. Shade Tree Hospitality and Food Pantry and Sozo Health Ministry are open on Wednesday and Thursday mornings. The annual back-to-school sale is going to be this coming Saturday for just a couple hours, that Saturday morning distance. Loretta Utley, who was one of the early members of the Patchwork community and a longtime faithful member of the community, died last Wednesday. And there will be services for her on Monday. And so any of you who feel comfortable getting out and who knew Loretta might like to consider going to those services. Now, as we gather, we think about celebrations, and for us that means birthdays and anniversaries, and my calendar has just one. Susan Steinkamp has a birthday coming up this Thursday, so we all wish her the very best. Happy day, and if there are others, enter those in. And to the extent that I can keep track of several things at once, I'll try to catch those, and we can lift up any others during the time for gifts. So, let's see. People with us: Darlene Blagg, Helen Templeton, Randy Pease, Karen Hughesby, Jane Johansson, Laura Weaver, Amy Rich, Nils Johansson, Gail Lafife, and Bill, Sean Craddock, and Tom. All right, so that's quite a nice gathering for getting all those names up here that early. So, welcome. Now, hear this lesson from the Psalms, the first 3 verses of Psalm 42. As a deer longs for flowing streams, so my soul longs for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and behold the face of God? My tears have become my food day and night, while people continually say to me, "Where is your God?" Have you ever felt like the psalmist? Have you ever felt a longing for God, like a deer longs for water? Have you ever had your soul thirst for God, as if parched in a desert of loneliness, of fear, of grief, or of uncertainty? Maybe in your longing for God, whoever God is for you, you've had no words. Maybe you've only been able to cry, tears carrying your whole longing through days and through nights. Maybe the people around you have not been able to help, not knowing or not understanding. Or maybe they've been actively unhelpful, having only questions or skepticism. If so, you have felt the psalmist's need. Or have you ever had the opposite experience of being found and surprised by God? Have you ever been living your daily life oblivious or distracted, happy or sad, but definitely not looking for God when God just showed up, just broke into your awareness, and maybe stayed or didn't, but definitely left an impression? If so, then you might identify with the fellow in the story in our Old Testament reading for today. He is Jacob, son of Isaac, grandson of Abraham, and he was definitely not looking for God. The scripture doesn't tell us this directly, but by the time of this story, we have learned enough about Jacob that we would be hard-pressed to think God was anyone Jacob wanted to see or expected to see. To put a not too fine point on it, Jacob was a scoundrel. He was a thief, a liar, and a cheat. Jacob had conspired with his mother against her husband and elder son. He had cheated his brother twice out of valuable inheritances. He had lied to his dying father, and at the time of this story, Jacob was running away from home, afraid for his life, for his brother had threatened to kill him. This is where we meet Jacob in Genesis 28. Jacob left Beersheba and went towards Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. And the land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Not too subtle on God's part, huh? So, God has found Jacob, and Jacob must know it. A dramatic dream, a vision of God and God's voice, and promises. The same promises God had given to Jacob's father and grandfather, and even more. Yes, Jacob may not have been looking for God, but God found Jacob. And where? Not in the equivalent of a church or a cathedral, not on a spiritual retreat, or during a fast, or during a prayer weekend, not while Jacob was walking a labyrinth. God found Jacob while Jacob was sleeping, which is a normal thing to be doing when the sun has set, normal and everyday. Jacob's sleeping was as routine as our own, as normal as eating supper, mowing the lawn, going for gas for the car. Some of us remember and pay attention to our dreams, but I'm guessing that many of us don't, at least not much of the time, and maybe Jacob didn't either. But Jacob paid attention this time. Jacob was aware this time, and Jacob knew that what had happened was important. So important that it was an event that needed to be marked. Here's the rest of the story. Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put under his head, and he set it up for a pillar, and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, but the name of the city was Luz at first. So, Jacob marked this place of meeting with God, with a stone and some oil and a new name. I think many not too theologically rigid people would be comfortable saying Jacob erected an altar and consecrated it. And he gave the place a name that many people give to their churches, Bethel, Bethel, house of God, because this was a place where God found Jacob. Strictly, what Jacob did was erect a shrine. I'm going to do the dictionary thing. A shrine is a holy or sacred place dedicated to a specific deity, ancestor, hero, or saint, at which that figure is venerated or worshiped. An altar is a structure, often a raised platform, on which sacrifices are made. The roots of the Old Testament Hebrew word translated as altar are related to slaughtering and cutting up for sacrifice. As worship practices evolved, so has the usage of the word altar to be not entirely about slaughter and sacrifice, and certainly about offering. So, in the Old Testament, the altar was not only the place of sacrifice, but also a place for the offering of cereal and grain offerings. In some Christian churches today, an altar is the place where, literally or symbolically, depending on your theology, Christ is reoffered as a sacrifice to God in the Holy Communion. Or in other Christian churches today, the altar is the place where congregational worshipers offer themselves, their material goods, their spiritual gifts for the work of God. In a long entry in my Bible dictionary is the following: the concentration of altars was linked to a divine theophany, an appearance or manifestation of God. Hence, altars were installations that enabled people to draw near to God's presence. So, following this evolution from its original meaning, I want to think for a few minutes about altars as places where God has been revealed, or as places we might go to find God, to make contact with God. And even, let's stretch this idea of altar beyond physical places to include times and events, people and relationships, art, music, dance, any of these that have helped us to discover God's presence in our lives. So, whether like the psalmist who seeks God like a parched person in a desert, or like Jacob who wasn't thinking about God at all until God found him, have you ever had an encounter with God in a meeting now that you would be comfortable calling an altar? Think about it. Where, who, what have been, maybe continue to be, the altars in your life? For some people, the front of a church sanctuary will come to mind. A simple or elaborate table, maybe including grill work, pictures or icons, candles, maybe flowers, and a cross or a crucifix. For some people, what will come to mind as their altar is a place by a stream, a river, or the ocean, maybe an expansive meadow, or a quiet place in the woods. Your altar might be marked by a pile of stones or a colored ribbon, or even some sprinkled glitter, or it may look to anyone else like an ordinary place, marked only in your mind by its significance for you. Or maybe you've met God in a painting, in a piece of music, in a crowd of people, or in the presence of just one person. Where, what are your altars? One of my altars is our porch. When I lean back on a pile of pillows, I can look through the windows and I can see some sky and lots of trees, leafy trees. The view brings back happy camping memories, but it also reminds me to be thankful to God for the sky, for the trees, for the breeze, and to my neighbors in the distant past as well as the present, for the people who planted those trees, let them grow, and continue to let them be, in spite of the threat of falling limbs and branches, and in spite of the monumental leaf raking every fall. This place reminds me to give thanks. Now, I invite you to think about one or more of your altars. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you'd like, and join Jacob in proclaiming the holiness of that place or experience in which God can be found for you. We are apart from each other. We are apart from our churches and sanctuaries. We may be uncomfortable these days going to the river or the woods or a concert, but that doesn't mean we can't meet God or have God find us. Our altars don't have to be elaborate. They don't have to be marked. They don't even have to be physical. They can reside in our memories, in our imaginations, and in felt impressions in our bodies. They should be holy to us, even if they are ordinary places. They are houses of God, kind of like God. Wherever we are in need, all we need to have, to find, to remember is our altars. John Cheadle is here. Jane Staten is here. Jill Heminger is here. I'll say this now in case I forget later. Jill reminds us to keep Nelia and Calvin in our prayers. She's doing better, but is still recovering. And there's a major COVID surge going on in Nashville right now. Michelle Haywood is here. Phil and Helen Fisher are here. Oh, but they have no audio. Well, I'm sorry about that. Amy's in charge of that part. Okay. Before we go on to gifts and prayers, I want to invite you to do something with your altar images. I want to invite you, ask you, even implore you to join in an experiment for community in our pandemic times. If you've worshiped with us regularly over some time, you remember that occasionally when we say our names at the beginning of the service, we are invited to say something else about ourselves. Thus, we have learned things about each other's favorite color, their valued role models, their cities of growing up, their favorite music. Maybe we already knew some of these things, but sharing them as part of our service allowed us to honor each other and these little bits of our lives. And I know it creates and strengthens our sense of community with each other because I've watched during these times of sharing, and I've seen knowing smiles and nodding heads, and I know that we became more connected than we were. So, I'm hoping we can do something like this at a distance and contribute to next week's worship in this way. I asked you to think about some of your altars, places or events that have revealed God or that hold a sense of God for you. Please share one or two of these altars. Send me a picture, a description, a story, and I'll figure out a way it can be shared. My plan is to do it as part of worship next week. I've created a pop-up email address. This won't be up forever. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. But I've tried to make it easy for you to remember. It's a Gmail account. The name is altars72620@gmail.com. Altars, ALTARS, 2 A's, like what we've just been talking about, and then the date of next week's Sunday service, 7/26/20. So, altars72620@gmail.com. Send me something about your altars, one or two of them. A picture, a description, a story. You can ask me questions or send concerns there as well. If you don't want me to identify you with your contribution, let me know and I'll honor that. But I hope you'll be comfortable sharing something. Let's see if we can make this a different way to bring us together, since we can't do that in person. Now, it is time for sharing gifts and prayers. And if you're with us live, I hope that you've been sending in those that you would like to have shared this way. I want to start this way. On Friday, this country lost two important, vital, valuable role models and civil rights icons. John Lewis was probably the more well-known today anyway. He was born in 1940 in Alabama, a civil rights leader and a congressman from Georgia, called by some the conscience of the Congress. In Across That Bridge, a book that Lewis published in 2017, he wrote, "Freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched high on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we must all take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society." C.T. Vivian was half a generation older, a minister, an author, an organizer, a co-worker with Martin Luther King Jr. Vivian said, "Leadership is found in the action to defeat that which would defeat you. You are made by the struggles you choose." We are the poorer for their loss. We are the richer for their lives. May they rest in peace, and may we live up to their example. So, our thanks for the lives of these two men and for other gifts we put in this bowl, virtually. Financial gifts that support the work of Patchwork. Patchwork is ongoing and active, even though the building is not entirely open. Thank you for whatever gifts you send by mail or online that support the continuing work of Patchwork. Patchwork's Shade Tree Hospitality, Patchwork's Food Pantry, the Summer Children's Program, Sozo Health Ministry, and the many ways that we care for and are cared for by each other, even at a distance. So, we've got audio back. That's good. We are richly blessed, and we give God thanks. And now we come to a time for prayers. I will lead the prayers. When I say gracious God, please join together and join in the prayer by saying, "Hear our prayer." Gracious, loving, and ever-listening God, we lift up in thanksgiving all the blessings we have named, as well as those that we carry in our own hearts. Gracious God, hear our prayer. We pray for people who are sick, lonely, frightened, grieving, or financially devastated by the pandemic we are living in. May they find support, comfort, and bravery for these days. Gracious God, hear our prayer. We pray for our city, our state, our nation, and our world. May our leaders make wise decisions, holding the least of the people and the regions of the earth to be as important as the greatest. Gracious God, hear our prayer. And we lift up these prayers of the people. For Nelia and Calvin in Nashville as Nelia recovers from lung surgery. For Loretta Utley and her family. Loretta died on Wednesday, and her service will be on Monday. For the success and safety of the back-to-school sale, which will be here on Saturday. For Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for courage and healing in the face of her recurring cancer. For all of these prayers and the ones that we speak in our own hearts, gracious God, we hear our prayer. All of these we lift up and pray in your holy name. Amen. For many of God's Christian people, this table, these elements, the meal we are about to share, and the community that sharing creates are an altar, a place where we may meet God. And for that reason, it is holy, set apart, a time, a place, a story that bring us life. We are separate in space, maybe even separate in time, but we gather in spirit to remember, to share this meal, and to make community. So we gather, I with this bread and this cup here, and you where you are, as you choose, with your bread and your cup. We share these together, gifts of God for the people of God. Jesus, on the night of his arrest, took bread with his disciples. After giving thanks, he blessed it and broke it, saying, "This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And then he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant, sealed in my blood. Whenever you drink it, do it in remembrance of me." Even though we are apart, we are one community as we eat this bread and drink this cup together. Let us pray. Loving God, you have given us a share of the one bread and the one cup, and made us one with each other and with Christ. Let us meet you at our altars and be refreshed and renewed for the days ahead. Amen. We're almost finished here, but there's one more thing before we go. Back to that Jacob story. The thing that makes this story memorable for lots of people is not Jacob's realization that he has been visited by God, not his turning the pillow over into an altar, not even the vision of God repeating and adding to the promises given to Jacob's father and grandfather. It's the ladder. It's that ladder reaching to heaven. It's the angels going up and down. There's a lot of great art, some that's tacky, based on that image, and many sermons about what that ladder and the angels mean. And then there's the song, "We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder." Almost everybody knows it in one version or another. And though it comes to my mind whenever I think about this Jacob story, it's not about that story at all. It's an African-American slave spiritual that uses the vision of that ladder in a Christian context to create an image of striving, toward God, toward discipleship, toward freedom. Comfortable, white American Christians can use this song to inspire themselves to greater devotion. But especially in these days when we dare to hope for lasting social change, especially for brothers and sisters who have been treated shamefully, we would do well to let this song teach us of the yearning for respect and freedom that gave it birth. If you didn't, consider listening to Bernice Johnson Reagan's version. I gave a link in Amy's email last Thursday to her version of this song as it was used on Ken Burns' Civil War documentary. It's powerful. Okay, finally, now, announcements. Patchwork's Board of Directors meets on Tuesday. Pray for them as they continue to oversee and direct and bless the work of Patchwork during these times. Lorita's funeral is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. It's at Pierre Funeral Home. I'm not sure which one. The Back to School sale is on Saturday. If you are thinking or wondering whether your help could be used, contact Jane Johansson. It's going to be run differently from in the past, and I think won't take as many volunteers, but contact Jane if you would like to do that. And remember to send me your altars. Anything else? I don't see it. So, as we prepare to separate and leave this virtual gathering place, we are reminded that we are bound together in spirit, that our God lifts us up through each day, and that we are the instrument of God's lifting up of others. And let the people say, amen.